Hello and welcome to the Essex Boys Murder Case Part 49. Before watching this video, I recommend watching Part 4 on YouTube first, as these videos are all about the key individuals and the murder victims' movements on the day of the 6th of December 1995. A quick mention to the Facebook page called The Real Essex Boys Murder Club. If you're interested, please feel free to join, as there's some great people on there and with a lot of knowledge on this subject. If you've been following the Essex Boys saga as of late, you will know Steve Nipper Ellis did an online questions and answers interview video, which was on YouTube, called The Interview Steve Nipper Ellis Boy Shooter Revealed. If you haven't seen it yet, I do recommend watching that video first before watching this video. In Nipper Ellis' interview on YouTube, he says his dad, Sid Ellis, was the one who was down the track that night and executed the Essex Boys. Soon after the video was released, the national press was all over the story. This was in local and national newspapers. The Sun newspaper covered the story. The Daily Mail, along with a few more of the tabloids, then the local press did their stories covering the revelations. This is the Daily Mail story of the Nipper Ellis interview, claiming his dad Sid carried out the hit back in December 1995 at the infamous White House Farm track in Reconnaissance. As you can see, the headline says, "My dad was the Essex Boys killer." The ex-gangster claims his father carried out the notorious 1995 Range Rover murders, and an ex-cop believes the wrong men could be in jail. Then, further along the story, Steve Nipper Ellis goes on to say that the two men, Mick Steele and Jack Williams, are innocent, and that his father Sid carried out the murders after threats were made from the Essex Boys on his family. Nipper Ellis had served time with Pat Tate in prison and were good friends on the outside. Ellis even gave Pat a place to live at his flat when he got out of prison. The two were earning some decent money, according to Ellis, with Pat's contacts in the underworld. They eventually fell out over a comment Nipper Ellis made to Tony Tucker's mistress, Donna Garwood, in this picture, and Pat took Tony's side. Tony Tucker had threatened to cut off Nipper Ellis' sister's fingers as an act of revenge. Previous to this threat, a feud began between the Essex Boys and Nipper Ellis after the remark Nipper had made about Tony Tucker's mistress over a telephone conversation between Nipper and Garwood. Donna Garwood took exception to the remark by Nipper Ellis and told Tony Tucker what he had said. When Tony Tucker rang Nipper Ellis about the remark, he was furious, and Nipper tried to tell him it was just a bit of a joke, but Tucker was having none of it and threatened Ellis. Ellis was hearing in the underworld that the Essex Boys were going to do some serious damage to him. On one occasion, Tony Tucker, Craig Rolfe and Peter Cuthbert had gone round to Nipper's flat to teach him a lesson, threatening to chop his hand off. Now, I must state, Peter Cuthbert played no part in the violence. Nipper later said in an interview that Peter Cuthbert tried to calm Tony Tucker down. Now, this feud would involve the shooting of Pat Tate by Nipper Ellis. Ellis turned up one evening at Pat's bungalow on Gordon Road and shot at Pat through the bathroom window. Nipper Ellis managed to shoot Pat in the arm before fleeing from the area. Whilst Pat Tate lay in hospital recovering from his injuries, Tony Tucker and Craig Rolfe went looking for Nipper Ellis at his flat, but Nipper was lying in wait. He appeared and chased them down the street, shooting at them. After this event, Tony Tucker was telling people he was going to cut off one of Nipper's sister's fingers. Nipper had to warn them, so he phoned his dad, Sid. In a previous documentary, Nipper Ellis did say he phoned some London firm up and told them what was going on and warned them to know if he could buy a gun, as he wanted to sort the Essex boys out for himself. Now, the gun Ellis had used to shoot at Tucker and Rolfe wasn't always firing, so it wasn't reliable. He needed a firearm that wouldn't let him down the next time he had a confrontation with the Essex boys. He then went on to say that the London firm rang Tony Tucker and warned him that if he had any problems with Nipper, then he had to sort it out with Nipper himself and leave his family out of it, or there will be consequences. Now, Ellis never says who the London firm was in that documentary, but I personally think it was the Tibbs. I think it was Jimmy Tibbs who rang Tony Tucker and warned him. Nipper said in that documentary that Tony Tucker knew they weren't messing around, so he backed down and came to a compromise where Tony Tucker would leave Nipper's family alone if Nipper Ellis left Essex and never came back. Nipper agreed and went on to live in Swanage, Dorset. Nipper Ellis claims his father, Sid, who died 4 years ago, shot all 3 men in a Range Rover down a small farm track and rang him the next day to confess. In the newspaper article, it goes on to say that in a questions and answers session online, Ellis said, "Pat got shot, then he put one in Craig's head, then put one in Tony's head, they'd frozen." He adds, "I'm telling the story now because my dad's dead. He died 4 years ago and my dad wouldn't care about me telling people." He then goes on to say, his dad phoned him that morning and said, "They're dead. Pat, Tony and Craig got 'em." Ellis says he replied, "What have you done, Dad?" He said his dad was laughing down the phone whilst he was crying, thinking his dad was going to be arrested. It wasn't until that night that he had heard it on the radio that the Essex boys were murdered. With these new revelations from Steve Nipper Ellis claiming his dad Sid Ellis carried out the executions, this is somewhat perfect timing for me, as if you've been following my Day of the Murder videos from part 4 onwards on my YouTube channel, you will know I have been following the murder victims movements and key individuals on the day of the murders, and I'm at 7:05 PM. which is according to the police and Darren Nichols' second statement, along with other statements, is when they say the murders had just been committed. I'm at 7:05 PM and the murders have just apparently been committed, which means I can fit these videos into this time slot and do them now. Eventually, I will be moving on from 7:05 PM and follow what Mick, Jack and Darren Nichols did next. Then I shall move on to Billy Jasper's version of events and what he says happened that night which was that he says the executions took place much later at around 12:30 the following morning. With the 7 p.m. time on the 6th of December 1995 being the first time the executions took place, there's been a lot to cram into this time slot, but eventually I will be moving on. So, is Nipper Ellis telling the truth? Did his dad really shoot the Essex boys? In these videos, I'm going to look into that possibility. I'm also going to look to see if Steve Nipper Ellis is telling the truth or lying. If you've been following these Day of the Murder videos, I finished with Nipper Ellis's movements in part 15. Now his movements that day was that he had to attend Swanage Police Station at 10:30 a.m. and he had to do this every day as it was part of his bail conditions, as he was under suspicion of burgling a garage. Now he said he went back home and washed his car and then generally sat around home lounging about the rest of the afternoon up to 4 to 4:30 p.m. He then says he picked up his girlfriend at Wareham railway station. His girlfriend at the time, Leanne Marie Hemingway, made a statement saying that Nipper Ellis had picked her up at the railway station at 5:20 p.m. or thereabouts. He was alone in his white BMW and she cannot remember exactly, but they arrived home together. Also in that video, I worked out the estimated time he could have got home and gone out again and made his way to Rettendon. Now, taking into consideration the wintry weather conditions that evening, it would have taken him 3 hours 9 minutes to get from his home address in Swanage to Rettendon, which means he would have arrived at Rettendon at approximately 9:30 p.m. So if the murders did take place at 6:58 p.m, he would have been too late. Did he plan the executions with his dad and make sure he had an alibi on the night of the murders, whilst his dad drove to Rettendon with an accomplice to execute Tucker, Tate and Rolfe? His dad, Sid, was an ex-criminal and knew how to use firearms. They also had motive. Tony Tucker was making threats to cut off Sid's daughter's finger if he could not get Nipper Ellis. And that is a strong motive to murder Tony Tucker and the others. Did Steve Nipper Ellis play a part in helping his dad get rid of the Essex boys once and for all? Did he conspire with his dad and an associate to murder Tony Tucker, Pat Tate and Craig Rolfe, having failed to do this on his own, having shot all three at different times? What I'm going to do now is go through a statement of an Alan Grayston and what he said he saw on the 4th of December 1995, which was 2 days before the murders. I've talked about this witness before in my recce videos, which were based on if Mick, Jack, Darren Nichols and anyone else carried out reconnaissance missions a week or so before the murders and on the day before the murders to see if they had timed car journeys from Marks T down to Brentwood, picked out certain places where they could stop and change number plates, a meeting place where they could meet the Essex boys, a chosen murder location. I also covered a place where Mick Steele could get the Essex boys to follow him to another place, which would give time for the others to get into place at the chosen murder location. All this would have taken a lot of time and effort into getting everything right. I used phone log evidence, Darren Nichols' version of events according to his second statement, and independent witness statements, and one of those was Alan Grayston. If you haven't seen my recce videos, it's a 7-parter on my YouTube channel, starting at part 34 and finishes at part 40. I also used Alan Grayston's statement in my Hitman videos, where I looked at the possibility of the male seen by Alan Grayston could have been the balaclava man seen by a Joseph Kowalinsky on the night of the murders. The set of Hitman videos are part 44 to part 48, and they are definitely worth a watch if you haven't seen them. So on with this video, and I'll now go through Alan Grayston's statement on what he said he saw on the 4th of December 1995, 2 days before the murders. Instead of putting up his statement and going through it word by word, I'm going to reenact what he did and saw on the 4th of December. If I do it this way, it saves me reading the statement out and you trying to picture what he did and saw that day. I thought if I do it this way, it would be better for you and for the purposes of this video. So, Alan Grayston was driving along the A130, travelling from Chelmsford towards Raleigh, which is in this direction. Now he remembers passing White House Farm, which is just here on the left. He then says he carried along the A130 towards Raleigh. He also says he travels to and from his place of work using this route. So this stretch of road would be familiar to him. Now this road was a country lane back then, and apart from the odd building along this stretch, it's mainly fields. I mean, he would have remembered the farm track. The bridleway is just a bit further down. After that, there's a primary school and a left turning onto a housing estate. And apart from that, it's just fields until you get to the Rettendon roundabout. It's much better doing it this way than just reading the statement out for you, the viewers. This way, you know what I mean, you get to visualise what Alan Grayston did and saw that day. Now, as he got closer to the farm track, just on the left here, he said he saw a 3 Series white BMW which was reversed into the entrance but was hanging partly on the road. This caused him and an articulated lorry in front of him to swerve outwards and go round the BMW. Alan Grayston also had to do the same. Now, as he approached the white BMW, he noticed there were no occupants in the vehicle. He also said it was clean and well polished. Now, after he passed the vehicle, he saw a man walking down a field from a large house on the top of the hill. He was about 20 yards into the field and saw him through an opening in the perimeter fence from the road. Now, the fence is a triple bar wooden fence, and some parts you can see through it. He said the male was heading towards the BMW. He said the male made eye contact with him and he looked straight back at him. He also said the male struck a striking resemblance to the footballer Steve Bull in looks and build. He had either stubble or a few days' growth on his face. He was holding a pair of binoculars in his left hand. He was driving at a slow speed, and he drove on until he no longer saw the male. So, this is the White House Farm track. And this here is the field he's talking about where he saw a suspicious male walking down towards the white BMW, which were reversed onto the track entrance and sticking partly on the road. The 3-bar open fencing is here. This is what Alan Grayston was talking about. And in the background, at the top of the hill, where he describes a big house, is Rettendon Hall. It's just there. It's just covered by trees that I'm circling now. And you can't really get a good view of Rettendon Hall from street view. I've tried zooming in, and I've even gone down this road here. To see if I could get a bit of view of it. It's just blocked by trees down there. I will show the viewers a picture of Rettendon Hall later in the video. So, who was this suspicious male and what was he doing in this field walking down from Rettendon Hall towards a parked up white BMW at the entrance of the farm track, holding a pair of binoculars in his left hand? Could it have been Steve Nipper Ellis doing a recce for his dad 2 days before the murders? Was he helping his dad prepare for the executions of Tucker, Tate and Rolfe? Did he play a bigger role in the murders of the Essex boys by conspiring to commit murder along with his dad and another accomplice? Had he been at the top of the hill where Rettendon Hall is and using the binoculars to look downwards to the pre-chosen murder location? Had he decided that the gate belonging to White House Farm had to be shut so an ambush could take place, and the gate belonging to Rettendon Hall was going to be used as an escape route into their field so the killer or killers could get away from the murder scene after the executions? Like I said, I will show you pictures of Rettendon Hall and the gate I'm talking about soon. But I want to pick up on a few things from what Alan Grayston mentioned in his first statement. The first thing I want to talk about is what Alan Grayston said he saw, which was a white 3 Series BMW. In his statement he said it was about 6 or 7 years old. So what I've done is found a white 3 Series BMW for you from 1988 to 1989, and this vehicle here that you're looking at now is a white 3 Series BMW from 1988 to 1989. What I want you to do now is just have a good look at this 3 Series BMW for a moment, as it will save you rewinding this video. Okay, I will now show you another picture of a white BMW. So the white BMW you're looking at now is a white 5 Series BMW from 1988 to 1989. Take a few moments to look at this white 5 Series BMW and see if you can tell much difference between the cars. Okay, the reason I wanted you to look at different white BMWs is to see if you can notice much of a difference. Steve Nipper Ellis owned a white 5 Series BMW at the time of the murders. He even says he owned a white BMW in that questions and answer video on YouTube when he claims his dad committed the murders. Could the witness, Alan Grayston, mistaken a white 3 Series BMW for a white 5 Series BMW? I mean, what were the chances of probability Alan Grayston noticing a white BMW at the entrance of the White House Farm Bridleway and Steve Nipper Ellis owning a white BMW at the time of the murders? Another thing Alan Grayston noticed about the white BMW is he said it was clean and well polished. Now, I've noticed in Nipper Ellis's previous documentaries that he's admitted to being a neat freak. When he had the flat that he let Pat Tate stop at, he said Tony Tucker would call around and Pat and Tony would bring girls around and do drugs and leave Nipper's flat in a mess. Ellis would get back to his flat the following morning and they would be gone, leaving the flat in a total mess. He says that he always liked his flat clean and tidy and hated mess. He was always keep cleaning it and keeping it nice and clean. Did this extend to his white BMW? Did he also clean his vehicle whenever he got the chance? He did say on the afternoon of the murders he was cleaning his car. Was he getting rid of any evidence linking him to the farm track entrance or the lane leading up to Reconnaissance Hall? Soil on his tyres or mudguards from that particular part of Essex? I have explained in a previous video that forensic scientists can work out if a particular vehicle has been in a particular part of the UK using soil samples taken from the murder scene and taken from mud on tyres and mudguards. Was Nipper's white BMW at the entrance to the White House Farm track on the 4th of December, 2 days before the executions, which was spotted by Alan Grayston as he drove past the bridleway heading towards the Reconnaissance Turnpike? Was he doing a recce for his dad Sid and helping him plan the executions? Was he more involved than he's made out in that question and answers video on YouTube? The next thing I'd like to pick up on with Alan Grayston's statement is the likeness and build to the footballer Steve Bull. This is footballer Steve Bull who he's talking about in his statement. Now, this picture is what he looked like back then, and he was of a medium build when he played football in the mid-90s. This is the person Alan Grayson said had a striking resemblance to the male he saw on the 4th of December as he drove past White House Farm track. As you will know, this is a picture of Nipper Ellis. Does he look like the picture I have just put up of the footballer Steve Bull? Forget the hair, because Nipper Ellis has grown his black hair short in the past, and if you watch old interviews he's done in the past, he's had short cut black hair. Concentrate on the facial characteristics of Steve Bull and Nipper Ellis. I tell you what I'll do, I will put both pictures up again so you can have another look. Do they strike a resemblance? That's for you to decide. Now, the last thing I want to mention about Alan Grayson's statement is that he said the male walked down the field towards the white BMW and he noticed that he had a pair of binoculars in his left hand. I get that just because he's holding a pair of binoculars in his left hand doesn't mean he's left-handed. But there's a good probability he is left-handed. I also know people can be ambidextrous. I myself am cross-hand dominant, which is basically mixed handedness, where I write with my right hand and eat left-handed. Basically, certain tasks I can do with my left hand and other tasks I have to use my right hand. It's slightly different from being ambidextrous. I think I read it somewhere that 10% of the world's population is left-handed, 1% are cross-hand dominant, 3% ambidextrous, and the rest are right-handed. So I get that just because this suspicious male held the binoculars in his left hand doesn't mean to say he's left-handed. But like I say, the probability is he was left-handed. Is Nipper Ellis left-handed? I mean, I personally don't know if he is. I'm not saying this, I'm just merely asking the question if he is left-handed. Do you know what? I'm sure I've heard him talking on one of them documentaries when Tony Tucker and the others went round to his flat and pinned him down. I'm sure he mentions something about, do you want your hand or your foot or something? And I'm sure Nipper Ellis says, well, I need my left hand so I can shoot you with. I'm sure he says something like that in a documentary. What I've done is find a clip of Nipper Ellis in a recent video, and this is the clip. During the video, he's talking about using a gun to shoot someone, and as you can see, he's using his left hand to explain about him shooting someone. I think it was when he chased Tony Tucker and Craig Rolfe down the street, but as you can see, he's using his left hand. Also, in the questions and answers interview Nipper Ellis did not so long ago on YouTube, and if you watch it at 50 minutes 44 seconds up to 51 minutes 39 seconds, you will see Nipper Ellis doing a reenactment of him using a shotgun, and he uses his left hand to pull the trigger and his right hand to hold the gun. So from this information, I'd say Nipper Ellis is left-handed after reenacting his motions of using a shotgun in the YouTube video and this one I found for you. Could he have been the suspicious male walking away from Rettendon Hall down the field, holding the pair of binoculars in his left hand, heading towards the white BMW that was parked on the bridleway owned by White House Farm? Did he have prior knowledge his dad was going to commit the murders? Was it his white BMW Alan Grayson saw on the 4th of December as he drove along the A130 passing the track? If so, what was he doing up at Rettendon Hall? As I said earlier in this video, I will put up a picture of Rettendon Hall and the gate that belongs to them. Obviously this is the Rettendon Hall in the background here, and this is the gate down here that they owned. Now, was Nipper Ellis at the top of the hill next to Rettendon Hall looking down at this gate? Did he have inside knowledge that the Essex boys would be having a meeting at this location in the next few days? Was he thinking of a plan to get the Range Rover to stop so an ambush could take place? Did he decide that the gate belonging to White House Farm would need to be shut in order to bring the Range Rover to a halt? After the executions, would this gate be his dad's and his accomplices' getaway from the murder scene? Did Nipper Ellis help his dad by doing a recce of the chosen murder location prior to the executions? Was he more involved than he's made out? Okay, that's it for part 1 of the Steve Nipper Ellis revelations. I don't like making long videos. Well, no longer than 30 minutes if I can help it. Because when I watch videos on YouTube, I mean, I've had enough after 30 minutes. So I just like to keep them roughly just under 35 to 30 minutes. In part 2, I will look at the possibility of Nipper Ellis making the journey from Swanage in the morning after attending the police station to Rettendon, doing a recce and making it back to pick up his girlfriend at the train station. I'm also going to cover a statement from a David Rayner and what he said he saw on the evening of the murders. If you haven't already subscribed, please do, because if you're interested in the Essex boys and you subscribe, you get to watch my videos first, as I don't upload them onto the Facebook group for at least a week. Don't forget, you can join the Facebook group, The Real Essex Boys Murder Club. All we ask is respect other people's opinions on there, as we all have our own theories on what we think happened that night. And last of all, I'd like to thank the admins who do a great job of keeping the group ticking over. So until next time, take care.